Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson. Today we're going to be talking about hair. This might sound like a very simple topic, but I was surprised when I was putting the slides together on the topic, how many words I could think of, how many words and phrases there are when it comes to learning how to talk about hair. Yes, hair, the stuff that is on most of our heads, unless some of you are older and maybe you are bald. Sometimes men lose their hair when they get older and they don't have any. But this is an English lesson about hair. I was surprised because Jen gave me the idea. She said, why don't you do a lesson on hair? And I thought there would only be about 15 words, but I have over 40 words and phrases to teach you this morning about hair. So I think you will really enjoy this English lesson. So hair. Hair is what you have up here on your head. But interestingly enough, we do have hair on other parts of our body as well. I'm not going to go into all the details except to say that if you're talking about hair on another part of your body, you just mention the body part and then say hair. So people have ear hair. That's kind of a weird one. People sometimes have nose hair, especially older men. Sometimes you have nose hair. We have armpit hair as well. We have arm hair and leg hair. And this is a bit of an awkward one. There's an area of the body, a private area where you have something called pubic hair. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but we do have hair all over our body. Most of this lesson is going to be about the hair that you have on your head. So you can see this person here has nice hair. I think I have nice hair as well, although I do tend to keep my hair pretty short. Some people have long hair. So when you describe hair, there's a lot of ways to describe it, and I didn't want to spend too much time talking about it. You can say that someone has long hair. A lot of women have long hair. Some men have long hair. Long hair is any hair, I would say, that grows past your shoulders. So this person, I would say, definitely has long hair. And the opposite, of course, would be short hair. I would describe short hair as any hair that is above the shoulder or to the shoulder. There's a lot of other ways to describe hair. You can have curly hair where you have like little ringlets. You can have frizzy hair. You can have a lot of different styles of hair. But for the most part, people talk about hair in the sense of long hair or short hair. I have short hair. I have really short hair. Now, there is other hair on the body as well that's not part of the head or the arm or the leg. And we call this a beard. I think you're familiar with this. I am going over some of the simpler vocabulary. So when you have hair on the lower cheeks and on the chin, we call this a beard. And then when you have no hair here, when you shave here and you just have hair here, we call this a goatee. So I used to have a goatee a long time ago. I think it's called a goatee because if I go and look at my goats, some of the goats have a little bit of hair growing right down here at the end of their chin. So I wonder if the word goatee comes from the fact that it looks a little bit like you have the same hair as a goat. You know what a goat is, right? Like ma with horns, and not a sheep, a goat. And then you have what's called a mustache. So let's zoom in on this guy. This is my mustache. So this guy here has a beard and he has a mustache. A mustache would be hair that you grow right above the lip, right below the nose. I like having a mustache. I don't know. I've had a mustache and a bit of a beard. I don't grow my beard very long for quite a number of years. In fact, I think a year ago I shaved my beard and mustache and a lot of viewers didn't like it. They said they didn't recognize me and they said I looked much better with facial hair. So that's the term I've just used, facial hair. When you have a beard or a goatee or a mustache, we call that facial hair, hair that grows on your face. And I get my hair cut. I cut it myself and then Jen trims it for me. I use a trimmer or clippers, but a lot of men go to what's called a barber. A barber is a person who is trained to cut men's hair in particular. And a barber often will have a barbershop. So let's look at these two slides a bit more closely. So we have this gentleman who is a barber. So someone is sitting in the chair and he is getting a haircut from his barber. And that barber works in what's called a barbershop, a place with chairs that go up and down and mirrors on the wall so you can see the haircut as you get it. A woman would more likely go to a hairdresser or a hairstylist. So a hairdresser or hairstylist is someone who specializes in cutting women's hair. Note, by the way, that a hairstylist doesn't themselves need to be a man or woman. They can be either. But a hairdresser or hairstylist is someone who cuts women's hair. So if I needed a haircut, I would go and see a barber at a barber shop. If Jen needed a haircut, she would go and see a hairdresser or hairstylist at a hair salon. So a hair salon looks a lot like a barber shop, but it's designed more for women to get their hair done. Sometimes at a hair salon, you can also get your nails done and other things. Maybe you can get a pedicure on your feet, but a hair salon is definitely where Jen would go if she needed to get a haircut. By the way, Jen gets her haircut from a friend who has a little hair salon in her basement. It's a little business that she runs. So Jen goes to her friend's house to get her haircut or to get her hair styled. So generally the tools used by someone who cuts hair would be a scissors and a comb. So often if I was to go get my hair cut, I get it cut with clippers. But if I had a bit longer hair, I would have the person cut it with a scissors and a comb. Pretty standard tools for a barber or hairstylist to use. And then also they might use a brush. So again, some of the basic English vocabulary here. When you have nice hair and you want it to look really nice, you might brush your hair with a hairbrush, and a hairbrush looks like that. So here's the clippers that I was talking about. When I get my hair cut, I have my own pair of clippers. You can call them hair trimmers or hair clippers. I call them clippers. I think that's the common name. I put a little spacer on the end. I put a little attachment on the end so that it cuts my hair this long. And then I buzz my hair off. I think we use the verb buzz in English because that's the sound the clippers make. It's like bzzz. It makes a buzzing sound. So I buzz my hair off, but there's parts I miss. So then I sit down and Jen finishes it for me. She trims around my ears and she trims my neck. But I use clippers to cut my hair. There's other facial hair as well. Actually, this technically wouldn't be facial hair. I think this would just be other examples of hair on the body. We have eyebrows, which are above our eyes. So you see that this lady has dark eyebrows and the arrow is pointing to them. And we also have eyelashes, which are the little bits of hair that grow right on the eyelid. So this is your eyelid when you close your eye. And there's little hair, little eyelashes on the eyelid. And then also on the bottom, there's little hair. So those are your eyelashes. So, and if you wear makeup, you might put makeup on your eyelashes as well. I don't know a lot about makeup. So when you get your hair done a certain way, in English, we often say, I'm going to get my hair done tonight. I'm going to go to the barber and get my hair done, or I'm going to go to the hairstylist and get my hair done. We call it a hairstyle. So the style of one's hair, how you have your hair. This guy's hair, his hairstyle is, he has his hair combed back. He's probably using a little bit of hair gel to hold it there. So that is his hairstyle. We don't use the word hairdo a lot anymore. Like I don't say, hey, nice hairdo. But it's a word you might hear if you watch an older TV show or an older movie. Sometimes people are like, oh, I got my hair cut. How do you like my new hairdo? But now we would probably just say hairstyle, or we might even say, I got my hair cut. How do you like it? How do you like my hair? It's a new style I'm trying out. So the style of hair I have is called a buzz cut. Because you use clippers and because you say you're buzzing your hair, this is called a buzz cut. It's a very common hairstyle in the army, or if you are a police officer. It's not a very common hairstyle for a teacher, but I have a buzz cut, and I've told this story before because when I was younger, I bought a motorcycle, and when you wear a helmet, when you have lots of hair, the helmet makes your hair flat. So I finally just got my hair cut really, really short, and I liked it so much, I've kept it that way ever since. So A buzz cut is when you have really short hair. So we're going to talk a little bit about hair coloring. Sometimes people decide they don't like the color of their hair and they decide that they want to dye their hair. So we use the verb to dye to talk about changing your hair color. But we also just generally use the phrase hair coloring, you know. Oh, she's really into hair coloring. Or do you know anyone who does hair coloring? You could also say, do you know anyone who dyes hair? And that's someone who would be able to put dye in your hair to make it purple or green, or if you're old, you might even have your hair dyed to look more natural instead of gray. I know one person, and I won't mention any names, who does that. Someone who is the same age as me, but he doesn't have gray hair. He has nice brown hair as if he's 20 years old, but he's not 20. He's 52. He's a couple years older than me. Anyways, hair dye. There's something also called highlights. So this woman probably has darker brown hair and she has gotten some blonder highlights put in. So when you have highlights put in your hair, this isn't something Bob knows a lot about. I've never gotten highlights. But it's when you change the color of some of your hair to be a lighter color so that your hair has a nice look to it. So you might go and get highlights. Generally, we just call getting your haircut a haircut. It's very common to go and get a haircut. It's common to say to someone, hey, did you get a new haircut? Or did you get a haircut? It looks great. Or your new haircut looks awesome. So we use it as a noun, so you're going to get a haircut, but it's really an action, isn't it? So when you go to the barber or if you go to the hairstylist, you could say, hey, I'd like to get a haircut today. Could you do it in the same style as Justin Bieber? I really like his hairstyle. So we talked about a perm, which is a short form for permanent. We never say permanent though. And perms have been popular and then less popular and popular and less popular. And it seems to me they might be getting popular again. A perm is when you have straight hair and you go to a hair salon in order to have your hair made more curly or wavy permanently. Now it's not 100% permanent. It only lasts for about 4 weeks or 8 weeks, sometimes maybe 3 months, depending on how fast your hair grows. And I did say that when I was in university, I got a perm once. It was the style way back then in the late 80s. Men sometimes got perms to make their hair a little curlier. I had longer hair and I had curly hair for a bit. If you go back and look at bands in the 80s, if you go and look at rock music bands in the 80s, a lot of the guys in the bands had what we would say describe as big hair or curly hair. And the way to get that was to get a perm. So it was a little bit silly, but hey, that's what teenagers do, don't they? That's what young people do. They do silly things sometimes. Sometimes people will put their hair up in a bun. This is when you wrap the hair at the back of your head, and then sometimes you'll put a pencil or you'll have something to hold the hair in place, but you can also wrap it without using anything. We would call that a bun. And I'm not sure if it's popular anymore, but for a while, men were having their hair up in a bun, and we call that a man bun. So if you wear your hair like this, we would say you're wearing your hair in a bun, or you're putting your hair in a bun. If you're a man, we would call it a man bun. So you're a man with longer hair, and you decide that you want to have the hair up behind you in kind of a small knot. We would call that a bun. And yeah, I think it is from the word bun. Like when you eat a bun in English is a small piece of round bread. Like you eat a hamburger on a bun. And I think that's where the word comes from, the word bun for sure. Sometimes people will braid their hair. So braiding is something that when I was a kid, we would braid ropes. We would get ropes. Because I lived on a farm, we had a lot of ropes from the hay, and we would braid it. So it's when you take 3 strands and you weave them together. People with long hair will sometimes braid their hair. So it's both a verb and a noun. So you could say, my sister is going to braid my hair, or I like having a braid in my hair. Okay, so you can use it both ways. But it's when you take longer hair and you weave it together in a certain pattern, and it usually looks something like that. Sometimes people with long hair will wear a ponytail. So a ponytail, I think it's obvious where this word comes from. It's when you make your hair almost look like the tail of a horse or a pony. By the way, a pony it's not really a horse, but I'm just going to say it's a smaller horse. So sometimes men and women, they'll put their hair in a ponytail. So they'll grab their hair at the back. They might put an elastic in their hair. I think in English we have things called scrunchies. Don't quote me on that because I don't have long hair. I don't have a ponytail. But a ponytail would be when you gather all your hair at the back of your head and you kind of put usually an elastic or a rubber band or something maybe a little fancier to hold it there. Very common way for people with long hair to wear their hair on a day when they don't want their hair, to bother them. So a part. I'm not sure if you can see the arrow here. I put a little arrow on this picture. Some people will part their hair. Some people part their hair down the middle. Some people will part their hair on one side or the other. When I was a lot younger and I had longer hair, a bit longer hair, I had a side part. I would part my hair right here. That was where my hair naturally parted. You can see it even does it a little bit now. Some people part their hair right in the middle. So they comb in both directions away from the center. This guy has his hair parted on the side. So when you have your hair, when you have a part in your hair, it means that you divide the hair kind of in a straight line because it looks kind of cool. I don't part my hair now. There's not enough hair for me to part my hair. Sometimes people want curlier hair just temporarily. So they don't want to get a perm, but maybe they're going out for the evening and they're dressing up in fancy clothes and they want their hair to look extra cool. So they might put rollers in their hair. Rollers are usually hot and the heat causes the hair to kind of form around the roller and stay a little bit curly for a day. So maybe you're going to a wedding, maybe you're going to a prom. By the way, I think Brent from Speak English with This Guy did an English lesson about prom. Did you do that, Brent? I think last week. You should check that out. But rollers, you can put rollers in your hair to temporarily give your hair a little bit more curl. And if you want, you can use a curling iron as well. This is a similar thing, but you just do one curl at a time. So a curling iron is an appliance that you use in the bathroom that you can wrap your hair in, and the heat of the curling iron will force your hair to become a bit curly for about a day. So it's kind of another interesting way to do your hair if you're going to a special event. That's usually what we say. I'm going to get my hair done. I'm going to a wedding. I'm going to get my hair done. Jen will often get her hair done if we go to one of our kids' graduations, or if we go to a wedding, or if we go to something special. Jen will go to her friends to get her hair done. So a little curlier. I don't get my hair done. I usually just get a haircut. That's it. Hair dryer. Sometimes you wash your hair. You have a shower or a bath and you wash your hair, and then you'll use a hair dryer to dry your hair before you go out. I don't use a hair dryer because my hair dries very quickly. But if you were going somewhere important and you didn't want your hair to be wet, you might use a hair dryer to dry your hair before you leave. Sometimes you will shave. Now here is a picture of a man shaving his face. People sometimes also shave their legs, or they might shave their armpits. It depends on what you like to do in order to feel good about yourself. So in North America, some women shave their legs. Some women shave their armpits. Men don't generally shave their legs or armpits, although I heard that professional swimmers shave off most of their body hair. I'm saying things again. I'm not an expert, but sometimes you have hair and you want to remove it. You do that by shaving. So I shave right here and I shave down here, but I don't shave right here. When I shave, I use a razor. So a razor is a small thing that you use in order to shave. So when when you look at a razor, it has sharp blades, and you put some shaving cream on, and then you use a razor to shave. Some men will just use a shaver, an electric shaver. You might call it an electric razor as well, but an electric shaver you would turn on and it would go bzzz, and you would just use that to shave the hair off of your face. I tend to just use a razor because I don't have a lot to shave, so I just do that. And I use a clipper on my beard. Again, when you wash your hair, you use shampoo. Some people just use soap, but the vast majority of the world, when they wash their hair, will use shampoo. It's a special kind of liquid soap that you use for your hair, and you put it in your hair and then you rinse your hair when you are done. So you get your hair wet, you put shampoo in your hair and you kind of scrub your hair, or you, what would you say? You wash your hair. That's what I would say. And then you rinse your hair when you're done. Some people like their hair to feel very soft and luxurious after they wash it. So they might use what's called conditioner. So they wash their hair with shampoo and then immediately they'll put conditioner in their hair. Conditioner makes your hair have more moisture and feel more silky. I don't use conditioner because I have really short hair. There's no point. But when you put conditioner in your hair, it can make your hair just look nicer. You might use mousse if you want your hair to stay a certain way. Sometimes the hair that I have right here sticks up when it gets long, and I might just put a little bit of mousse in to make it flat like the other side. So mousse is like a foam, but it eventually will hold the hair in a certain place. I don't use a lot of mousse. You might use hair gel as well. Sometimes men want to style their hair in a certain way, and they'll use something called hair gel in order to make the hair stay that way. I think two of my sons use a little bit of hair gel in their hair to make it look a certain way. They like to have a certain look, so they use a little bit of hair gel to accomplish it. Now, I'm not sure how many people use hairspray. It used to be very common in the 80s. I know my sisters used a lot of hairspray in the 80s. Hairspray is something you spray in your hair. Once your hair looks the way you want it to look, if you spray hairspray, it will hold it that way. So hairspray is something that I'm not super familiar with, but it is something you use after you style your hair. If you're going out and you don't want your hair to move, you want it to stay the way it is, you might put hairspray in. Sometimes people with long hair will, instead of a bun or a ponytail, they might just use a hair clip. So they might have a big clip, and there's many, many different styles, and they'll use that to hold their hair in place. And sometimes people will use bobby pins. I always laugh because my name's Bob, and I don't know why they're called bobby pins, but these are little pins you can use. If you put your hair up like this lady's hair, she probably has some bobby pins holding her hair in place. And then she's probably using hairspray to make sure it stays that way. But bobby pins are little metal pins that you put in your hair just to hold it certain ways. And sometimes, I don't know why I picked a picture of a dog. Sometimes people don't have hair for medical reasons. Sometimes people don't like their hair. Sometimes people just want to look different for an evening, and they might then wear a wig. So a wig is, of course, either made from actual hair or it might be made from fake hair, but it's something that you wear in order to look like you have a different hairstyle. Sometimes people wear wigs like on Halloween. If you're dressing up, you might wear a wig as well to look like someone else. But as mentioned in the chat earlier, sometimes even for medical reasons, people will wear a wig. If you're going through chemo, if you're going through a treatment where your hair is going to fall out, you might decide to just wear a wig for a few months while you're going through that treatment. So again, a wig is, I guess, fake hair that you put on. And then men sometimes go bald. So this gentleman here in the bottom corner, he is going bald. So he has decided to wear a toupee. I have to be honest, I don't know if we use this word anymore, and I don't know if very many men wear toupees in North America anymore. I have a feeling it's not as popular as it was in the 70s and maybe in the 80s. But a toupee is like a partial wig for a man who's going bald. So this man decided he did not like being bald. He is going to wear a toupee and make it look like he has lots and lots of hair.